I thought it was really interesting. See, there were some things I did in JAG that aren't quite accurate, but close enough. JAG's about the Navy lawyers who both defend and prosecute. One week they're defending, the next week they're prosecuting, and they're really not the investigators. That came later in NCIS, but I knew about NCIS then, but I didn't want to confuse it, so I made them the investigators too. So it gave me an opportunity to tell a lot of interesting stories where one week you're prosecuting, one week you're defending. It's in the Navy, and it was right after Tailhook, and so the Navy wanted nothing to do with it. They became obstructionists. The reason I started JAG was, I can tell you why. I realized that I was not going to have a show on the air the next year for the first time in a long time. And I went, boy, you better put a show on the air. So I went from here to over there where my office used to be. And I sat down, and I do what I do. I started to write something. Didn't like that. Started to write something else. I don't know, wherever my mind took me. And it was the first year that females went on combat ships, active duty. And suddenly I found myself writing about this F-14 flying over what amounts to Bosnia, and I was talking about you know, two girls on a beach in Italy lying down topless, sunbathing, and Luigi fishing with his son in the Adriatic, and I had this Serb or Croatian, I don't remember which, climbing a mountain with a gun on his back, and overhead two F-14s go by in stage 5 afterburner, and the pilot in the one had a Rio that was a female, and he was the CAG, and he was going to check her out, the air group commander, check out what she could do. And he had 2 MiGs coming at him that had been set up, and that's how the whole thing started, and it was really good. By the end of Act 1, the girl is murdered on the carrier at night. She's thrown into the sea. And then I went, well, who comes out to investigate this, you know? And that's when I got into, well, there's NCIS, then there's a JAG investigation. They have a JAG on board too. And I found out the JAGs prosecute and defend and everything, and that, boom, that started it. I just went from there and started to write about JAG. And then I made him a former naval aviator who was still flying, which he wouldn't have been. But a lot of people poked fun about that, and when I went to Washington a couple of years later, when the Navy was cooperating with me, because the show was there, every Tuesday the show would run, and every Wednesday enlistment would spike. When I went there, the JAG at the time was a naval aviator.
Nice.
Became a lawyer and became JAG. So that part was true. And the Navy were really obstructionists on the pilot. They tried to get, I was shooting down in Corpus Christi on a museum ship down there, and the Navy threatened to withhold supplies from them if they cooperated with me, and this went on until the next year. Borda shot himself, the CNO of the Navy. A new CNO came in, and Ollie North, who I know, went to the head of the Armed Services Committee, and letters get exchanged, and the next thing I know, the Navy's going to help me. And then the Navy realized, you know what? They're really doing a good job for us. I understood why the Navy felt the way they did. I mean, they were hunkered down after Tailhook. They were thinking, oh my God, they're going to be telling stories about all the things that go wrong in the Navy, all the criminal activities. It's going to make us look like crap. And but that wasn't it. You had these good-looking people, you know, and they were doing their job, and they were doing it well. They were ferreting out the undesirables, and that was it. David James Elliott, Catherine Bell.